High school football is underway in Arizona despite the ongoing pandemic. But for one program, they are working to rebuild.
I want to help enhance our culture and make it a more positive. With 150, 200 males, you can get a lot of things done in a positive way. So that's a big deal.
This is Eric Lauer. He's the new head coach at Mountain Point High School in South Phoenix. And today, we'll hear about how he's reshaping the program after a series of losses. That's coming up on this edition of Cronkite Sports in Focus from Cronkite News. I'm Mark Feldman. Cronkite Sports in Focus is all about the big sports stories unfolding in Arizona. Each week, we bring you a roundup of the week's top sports headlines, along with an in-depth take on a major issue affecting the sports industry. The NASCAR Cup Series makes its way to Phoenix Raceway in Avondale for the 2020 season finale. 4 drivers will chase to win the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series championship. The racers are Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin. The NASCAR Cup Series playoffs started with 16 drivers, and each week 4 drivers have been eliminated. Some fans will be allowed to watch at the track, but they must wear a face mask and have their temperature checked. The season's final laps begin this Sunday at 1 p.m. Arizona time. Arizona State University's golf programs are looking to return to the green next season. That's after the COVID-19 pandemic shut down the men's and women's golf season. I found out how both teams are looking forward to picking up where they left off. Olivia Mahaffey remembers the moment when she learned she would not play golf again this year.
I was really sad. I remember crying with the girls. You kind of want to know when you're going to tee it up for the last time.
Mahaffey is a fifth-year senior on the women's team. She's only the 3rd person in the program's history to be a 4-time All-American. The ASU women's golf team prior to the shutdown was poised to make a championship run. Mahaffey thought that team was really good.
We were kind of really trending in the right direction. We kind of had a good start to the spring and nice win in the fall. And, I think we were a really, really solid team.
This was back in March when the pandemic really started to become serious throughout the U.S. People lost jobs, families were separated, and sports were canceled. ASU women's golf head coach Missy Farkay recalls the team was at Pearl Harbor when the 2020 golf season was canceled.
When we got off the ferry, my phone just started blowing up and was like, we're done. Everybody's done. And so we were all together. We all got the news together, and it was just devastating.
Men's head golf coach Matt Thurman remembers the team was coming home from a tournament in San Diego. He says everyone was shocked.
2 days before, it wasn't even slightly a possibility on their radar that they could even imagine, to where their whole season that they'd spent years preparing for and pouring their heart and soul into was now gone.
The canceled season became official and the men's team started making their way home. The women's team, on the other hand, had a majority of players who were from all across the world. Travel was restricted, so those players stayed with Coach Farkay at her home in Arcadia. Mahaffey was one of them. She says her coach helped her get through the tough weeks ahead.
To have someone there, that loves you and for the person you are and really looks after you when you don't have your mom there, your parents there to hug when times are tough, it means a lot.
Coach Farkay understood the seriousness of the situation. She had 2 players living in the dorms, and she worried the dorms would close and they would end up on her couch.
It was so crazy at the beginning that we were literally just trying to make sure that we had enough food, enough toilet paper, and to be okay.
Coach Thurmond took a different approach, and ASU junior Cameron Sisk was a big fan. He says the coach had faith in the team to stay in shape and find a way to play.
He trusts every single one of us to where, he knows we're going to do the right things. We're not at ASU for, as a coincidence. We've got there because of our habits and, the way we practice and the way we prepare.
That preparation is all focused on getting ready to qualify for the 2021 National Championships, which will be at Greyhawk Golf Club in Scottsdale. Coach Farke is getting the women ready for a condensed schedule with back-to-back tournaments. Her goal is to make sure they are mentally and physically prepared.
We're going to have to play a little bit more than we normally do to get enough tournaments in prior to regionals. We still don't know what that number is going to look like yet. So, it's really just, from my perspective, is just to making sure that we're paced properly.
The importance of the NCAA naming Arizona State the host school for the championships is huge. The tournament will be broadcasted across the U.S., and Coach Farke believes the spotlight on Phoenix and beyond will show recruits the Sun Devil golf way.
The golf community here in the Phoenix metro area is outstanding to both of our golf teams. We are welcome at so many clubs in town that we literally couldn't do what we do without them.
Mahaffey says she's looking forward to the national championships in May. She's no stranger to big tournaments. She won the Woodbrook Ladies Scratch Cup this past summer in her home country of Ireland. She says that experience will help her at the national championships.
I'm very lucky that I've got to play some really big events at home in Ireland and kind of have that home crowd and home support, and I love it. I love playing in front of people. I love kind of feeling the pressure.
Mahaffey was a freshman member of the 2017 National Championship winning side. She realized the team dynamic was great. This year's team will have 2 new freshmen.
They add such a different perspective to us. We're a little bit older and, that sort of way. And then they kind of bring in this nice, relaxed kind of atmosphere. It's so nice to talk to them. It actually adds such a nice dynamic.
The Arizona State golf team finished 7th in last year's Golf Coaches Association of America poll. Coach Thurman says people around the college golf world want Arizona State to lose because they've had such success. He says that happens when you're a top-ranked team.
And the truth is, we still got to win a lot more. I mean, we haven't won any championships for a long time. We've won a lot of tournaments. We've produced a lot of great players, but we need to start winning some championships again and to really validate who we are as a program too.
That validation could come by making it to the national championships. Mahaffey says when they get to the championships, the pressure will be intense, but she likes that type of pressure.
I think our girls like that. We are quite fiery players. We are feisty. We like, we like the home support. We're used to that a lot at home in Europe.
The women's team will look to win a national title on home soil at Greyhawk Golf Club in Scottsdale beginning May 21st, 2021, and the men will play a week later on May 28th. I'm Mark Feldman, Cronkite News. Chun On-Yu picked Arizona State men's head golf coach Matt Thurmond as his caddy for the U.S. Open. Yu said he's thrilled at having his coach and a good friend walk the course with him.
I think just going to help me a lot during the tournament and during the week. So just really thank you, Coach Thurmond, to caddy for me this time.
And for Matt Thurmond, he is excited to switch roles and listen to Yu, who also goes by Kevin.
I went in, I said, that's what I told. I said, Kevin, look, normally, I'm the coach, you're the player. What I say kind of goes, even though it's not like I'm an authoritarian coach, but I just said, hey, whatever you want, I'm your servant, you're my boss, you can tell me to do anything you want, and I'm just here to do whatever you need.
Thurmond has been Yu's coach for his 4 years on the Arizona State golf team. Yu looked at going pro after last season, but because of the pandemic, he has returned to Arizona State to play as a 5th-year senior. I'm Mark Feldman, Cronkite News. The biggest question coming into this fall season for high school athletes is whether they will be taking the field or not. That inconsistency has led to a major increase in depression and anxiety rates from these young athletes. Cronkite News reporter Reed Harmon has been taking a deeper dive into this issue. He's with us now. Reed, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Of course, glad you could make it. 68% of high school athletes have reported signs of depression in the midst of the pandemic. This metric is from a study done by the Department of Orthopedics and Rehabilitation at the University of Wisconsin. How does that number compare to past years?
Yeah, so the past years, the numbers have been a lot lower, half of what it is now. And obviously COVID-19 has taken a big spike into that number. And I believe it was 34%, and now it's at 68%, which is just a huge increase from the previous years.
And why are so many high school athletes dealing with depression?
High school athletes are dealing with depression mostly because they're so isolated. They've been cooped up in their rooms all day and all night, not being able to have organized activity with their teammates and with their friends and coaches. So not being able to have that regularity has caused a major difference in depression and anxiety as well. And I also talked with Dr. Javier Cardenas about that. He's a neurologist in Phoenix, and this is what he said.
Reed, what are some solutions that Dr. Javier Cardenas offered?
Yeah, so he had a lot of different things, different takes on this issue. And one of the main things that he talked about was just physical activity, because physical activity is a huge contribution to your mental health. Obviously, it's physical activity increases, obviously, the way that you're moving and, your conditioning and things like that. But people tend to forget about mentally how big of a difference that is on your body, and, being able to do certain things throughout the day. So obviously the mental health is a huge contribution when it comes to physical activity.
According to that same Wisconsin study, physical activity has hit a new low for high school athletes. What's it at, Reed?
In fact, since COVID-19 has surfaced, activities have decreased by 50%, while anxiety has increased by 65%. Stagnancy is unforgiving, whether it be mentally or physically. I talked with David Hines about that. He's the AIA executive director, and he puts it this way.
And Reed, why do you believe these athletes are not doing activities outside of a structured school environment?
I think in short, it's a lack of motivation, not being able to be with your teammates, like I said earlier, and not being able to have practices and games. It causes a lot of lack of motivation, and you're missing your teammates, and not many people want to go out and just play on the courts when you obviously can't because of COVID, and you just want to stay inside and play video games and things like that. So motivation's a huge contribution to that.
And my final question for you, Reed, is in your reporting on the story, what did you learn about these young athletes and how will they be affected in the long term by this pandemic?
So I'll try and keep this one short, and I also kept it out of the package itself. But Dr. Cardenas talked about concussions and its relativity to mental health as well. And people tend to split mental health and trauma to the brain, which he said there is no difference. And especially at a young age like this, the development of the brain takes a big toll, whether it be mental health or concussions and trauma and things like that. So there is a big long-term effect when it comes to depression and the growth of your brain.
Reed Harmon is a sports reporter for Cronkite News. You can read his story about high school athletes and their mental health at cronkitenews.azpbs.org or on Twitter at ReadTheDream. The Pac-12 Football Conference has made a big change regarding their schedule. The conference has approved a plan to allow member schools to schedule non-conference football opponents subject to certain conditions if those games are canceled. There have now been 5 of 18 scheduled games canceled due to COVID-19 issues. The Pac-12 will allow a non-conference game if all of its testing and coronavirus-related protocols are followed and the game is hosted by a Pac-12 team. This change comes after the Arizona State football team's game against the University of Colorado, scheduled for this Saturday, was canceled. This means the game is a no contest and will not be played later in the season. This is now the second straight no contest after last week's game against the University of California was also canceled. These cancellations are due to a COVID outbreak among the team and Arizona State not being able to field the required number of scholarship players. One of the confirmed positive COVID cases comes from head coach Herm Edwards. In a statement, Herm said he, his wife, and children are doing fine, but he encourages everyone to take the virus seriously by wearing a mask, practicing physical distancing, and getting tested whenever possible. In a separate statement, athletic director Ray Anderson said the team consulted with the Pac-12 Conference and Colorado to make the prompt announcement so alternative scheduling options could be considered. The next game on the schedule is November 28th at home against the University of Utah. The Arizona Interscholastic Association announced this week that winter sports can begin as early as January 5th, with the last day of permissible competition on February 19th, which includes play-in competitions. Schools must have a minimum of 14 days of practice before any competition can begin. Student athletes who participate in non-school related teams or groups are excluded from practice and competition for 14 days after the last contact with the non-school team or group. Other stipulations include modifications of all sports for health and safety. No fans will be allowed at any event until metrics are appropriate. No scrimmages, invitational tournaments, or region tournaments will be allowed, and no out-of-state competition will be permitted. AIA Executive Director David Hines said in a statement, quote, "We feel that the students are safer within the school environment than not to be in school at all." Hines also said delaying the season start will allow coaches and administrators to implement safety protocols and put the required modifications in place. The first date of practice for spring sports has been pushed back 1 week from February 8th to February 15th, and spring championships will remain as scheduled on the AIA's calendar. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another playoff edition of the Salem High School post-game recap podcast presented by State Farm. Please see Cameron Irway for all your State Farm insurance needs and questions. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I am your host, Mark Feldman. In a Class 3 District 2 semifinal matchup, the Salem Tigers took on the St. Clair Bulldogs and lost by a final score of 42-7. I'm now joined by head coach of the Salem Tigers, Lane Howard. Coach, thank you so much for joining me today.
By the way, I do want to take this very brief opportunity here as we are close to the end of the show to thank our intern, Mark. Today is his last day.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark.
End of an era.
Truly. We have some interns who kind of come and go, and we have some interns who go above and beyond, and Mark has been one heck of an intern for us. Worked very, very hard, picked up many things very, very quickly. So we thank you, sir. We appreciate everything you've done. And just do me a favor and don't come take any of our jobs 5 years from now. Go take somebody else's job, okay? Not ours. We all like working here. Don't come take ours. So we thank Mark Feldman for everything he did for us with his internship wrapping up.